Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, Behind the Walls, by Griz Calderon. He had stood at the edges of plagues, wars, and famines, but the first time he paused before a house built only for the suffering of the mind, the quiet was different. It was not the hush of reverence, nor the pause before a final breath. It was a silence made by locks and keys, secrets sealed behind the walls. The building stood heavy and narrow, its windows no wider than the width of a hand. Families arrived with bundles tied in cloth, with downcast eyes and steps that faltered at the door. Mothers pressed kerchiefs against trembling mouths. Fathers signed ledgers as if signing away a burden. Children watched brothers and sisters vanish behind gates they would never cross again. Some came with hope that help might be found. Others came only with relief that the problem had been removed. No matter their reason, the result was the same. Their loved ones were swallowed whole by the place. What happened behind the walls was no longer theirs to know. The Grim Reaper did not stop them. Cloaked and silent, tall and watchful, he drifted across the thresholds, invisible to all but those closest to his embrace. Inside, he found the first asylums of Europe. Stone floors lined with straw, iron rings set into walls, keepers with belts heavy with keys, their voices sharp with command, doctors who called themselves healers, who measured and catalogued suffering like specimens. And the people, men and women, the elderly, children barely able to speak. Some convulsed with seizures. Some trembled with fears no one understood. Some had only spoken too loudly, or thought too differently, or simply been poor and unwanted. They slept on straw, ate from bowls that were never clean, endured the constant jeers of their keepers. At times, visitors from the outside came to watch, to gawk at their outbursts as if at a spectacle. Behind the walls, humanity became entertainment. And when exhaustion, illness, or despair hollowed the body, he came at last, unseen but present, and carried them gently away. Time stretched forward, and the houses grew into sprawling institutions. Across Europe and the young Americas, fields gave way to towers of stone and brick. From the road, they appeared noble, even grand. Long porches, peaked roofs, clock towers that seemed to promise order. Inside, the truth was different. Beds multiplied until iron touched iron. Walls wept with mildew. The stench of too many bodies clung to the air. This was the truth hidden behind the walls, a truth no visitor ever saw, and no ledger ever confessed. Here, everyone was gathered. The grieving, the epileptic, the elderly no family would keep, the wives who disobeyed, the sons who could not work, the children who could not learn quickly enough. Families said they sought healing. Too often, they sought only to be rid of them. Staff moved briskly through the halls. Nurses carried basins, orderlies barked orders, doctors clutched clipboards, as if knowledge excused cruelty. The moral treatment promised by reformers began as kindness, walks outside, quiet work, reading lessons. But as numbers grew, kindness gave way to labor. Patients tended gardens, washed linens, cooked meals, and repaired walls. They were told this was treatment. It was servitude in another name. Hydrotherapy became the fashion. A body lowered into water, strapped at wrists and ankles. Hours spent in cold that bit to the bone. To calm the nerves, the doctors said. Patients shivered until lips turned blue. Restraint chairs bristled with buckles, designed to hold a person in stillness for hours, sometimes days. A crib-like cage, lid fastened, confined children who could not sleep. To those outside, this was order. To those inside, it was torment without end. He walked the length of those endless corridors. He lingered at bedside after bedside, where faces looked upward in hope that someone, anyone, might come for them. He was the only one who did. For many, death came slowly, creeping through malnutrition, infection, or sheer neglect. For others, it came suddenly, a seizure in the night, or a collapse in the laundry yard. He carried them away from the walls that would never have released them otherwise. By the new century, science wore a whiter coat, but the cruelty remained. Halls gleamed with disinfectant, polished instruments laid in trays like tools of salvation. In truth, they were tools of suffering. Electroconvulsive therapy filled the air with the scent of singed hair, the crackle of electricity, the cries of those strapped to tables. At first, no anesthesia. Bodies buckled against leather straps, teeth shattered, bones broke. Later came masks, a veneer of silence, but the result remained. They called it treatment. He saw only suffering. Insulin shock therapy followed. Needles pierced arms, sugar water dripped. Patients fell into seizures, slipped into coma, then clawed back to consciousness. Or not at all. Near death became routine. For those who did not return, he was already waiting, the only one to hear their final breath. What happened here, hidden behind the walls, was called science. To those who lived it, it was torment. Then came the instrument. Slender, gleaming, slipped beneath the eyelid and into the brain. A stroke here, a cut there. Lobotomy. Families were promised peace, obedience, improvement. What they received were hollow shells of the people they had loved. The laughter was gone, the curiosity dimmed, the spirit broken. Some never spoke again. Behind the walls, the cost of progress was measured in lives reduced to silence. And all the while, drugs thickened. Sedatives dulled entire wards into shadows of themselves. Patients sat in rows, their eyes glassy, their hands limp. Doctors congratulated themselves on quiet halls. He knew quiet meant only one thing, that the voices inside had been smothered. He was present through it all. In every treatment room, every ward, every cellar. He stood by the children who trembled at straps, by the women who pleaded through clenched teeth, by the men whose spirits broke under endless repetition. He saw the few who offered kindness, a nurse who tucked in a blanket, an orderly who loosened a strap. But he also saw those who reveled in cruelty, who turned pain into routine. He knew their names, each one, and he knew the day would come when their turn arrived, and he would stand at their bedside. Nothing they did was unseen. Then came the small orange pill, the promise of chemical control. With it, governments closed wards, emptied beds, shuttered doors. Patients were cast into the world with no support, but the buildings remained, vast husks, stripped of life. He walked them in silence, corridors lined with peeling paint, rusted wheelchairs left in corners, mattresses stacked like discarded bodies, clocks smashed, glass glittering like frost. Hooks still lined the walls of treatment rooms where patients once hung in restraints. Wind whistled through broken panes, carrying faint echoes of cries that once filled the air. Now they stand as monuments of neglect. The world calls them haunted. Ghost hunters come seeking shadows. Teenagers dare each other to enter at night. Photographers capture the decay. But he knows the truth. These ruins do not hold spirits. They hold memory. The walls themselves remember. And so does he. He remembers the children counting the bars of their windows, the women staring at doors that never opened, the men who worked until their hands bled, told it was for their healing. He remembers the families who visited, stunned to find their loved ones empty-eyed and unrecognizable. And he remembers the staff who laughed at another's pain. Their day came, as all days do, and when it did, he was there. Now, the halls lie cold and hollow, but not blank. They are filled with memory. Behind the walls, humanity turned its face away from itself. Behind the walls, cruelty wore the name of care. Behind the walls, souls suffered. And he bore witness until the day he carried each one away. The end.